I'm proud of you. I'm so proud of you because, I see so much of what you've done. I see that you are one of the most determined people that I've ever met. And you talk about, to become wealthy or to have money coming in, and you just took the bull by the horns. And I've never seen anybody as dedicated as you were. Being in Mary Kay, being number one in the company, being number one out of 3.5 million women. I mean, that's a whole lot of women being number one.
Welcome back to Banking on the Banks. You're with us, your favorite couple. My name is Gloria Mayfield Banks, and this is
Ken Banks,
my husband.
How you doing?
We're so excited to be with you guys this week. We're so happy that you are sharing us, that you are following us, that you are checking and subscribing to us. We're glad to be here with you. And today we're going to talk about many things, but we're going to start off with generational wealth. So
Absolutely.
Ken, talk a little bit about your perspective on generational wealth.
Well, I think it's important. I think that any new generation that comes along has such an advantage with some sort of financial beginning than the people who don't. I mean, just for instance, let's say you're talking about college. What if college is paid for, and somebody else isn't? And the advantage that the people who don't have to, pay back college, loans, et cetera, and the people that do.
Right.
And so there's a tremendous difference there. So that's something. And generational wealth is a giving sort of thing. Instead of, you hear people say, I'm going to spend everything I got, and then and they can hope for the best. Those kids behind us. But I think it's important that if you have the means and ability to not spend everything you have and to have something either set aside or for your children or grandchildren or whoever that might be, in order for them to have a little bit of start in life. Now, very few people that I know had much of a start, from their beginning. They didn't have much of a start. And I certainly didn't. But I was very lucky in that I happened to be faster than most people, run faster. And so I was able to get athletic scholarships and academic scholarships going to college. So in that way, I kind of got a jump start on certain things that I didn't have to do if I hadn't gotten those full scholarship offers and taken advantage of one of them. So in those cases, you get a little bit. That's almost like generational wealth.
Yeah.
So, but I think it's important. What about you?
Well, let me stop here and remind you that I did not get an academic scholarship or an athletic scholarship.
But you had to work.
I did. But the what you brought up, because I was thinking the same thing when you started talking about it, is that it first gives people a different breadth of education and a different start. When I was thinking about generational wealth, I was thinking not only about the finances, which I think what generational wealth is about, the money that you can pass on, but all the things that the ancestors have passed on. And now we're getting to a place, like you said, as this generation becomes a wealthier generation, it is now part of our conversation, which is exciting to see that it's our conversation. And it does set your kids up differently. And it does, one of the things I've been talking to people about is how do you create big dreams and how do you do big things? Because one of the things that motivates me is where I can take Kalea when she graduates from high school. She's our oldest granddaughter. And so I think about where can I take her and just show her what generational wealth looks like, what gathering wealth looks like, what success looks like, because it makes a difference for them. But to look at our different backgrounds and to know that I came from a strong middle class background, and you did not come from that. And what happened, what you had to bring to the table, what I had to bring to the table, and what we've been able to show our family and our friends, what happens when you take whatever it is that you've given with the perspective of not just using everything that you've created, but to be able to pass some of it along has made a difference. Right,
exactly. But you brought up something that I often thinking about. If this is what you meant, generational wealth does not necessarily mean passing along money, because I always say that we are so fortunate in being African Americans, but able to we didn't have to work in the fields. I mean, so we stand on the backs of generations of African Americans that had to that were slaves that had to work for free, and they had to do all of this stuff and all of the prejudices against them, et cetera, et cetera. Not that the world is
we got other issues.
It's full of prejudice, but we have been able to be able to work in the jobs that we wanted to do, and we have been able to be successful in that. And we wouldn't have been able to do that were it not for the sacrifices of the people that came before us made.
Right.
And so we should always pay attention to that. Sometimes I think, and I get, you're frustrated or you're tired during the course of the day, and I say to myself, how can I be tired?
Right.
The things that I do are nothing like being outside, in the hot sun for 14 hours doing some kind of crazy work with your hands,
no freedom, no money, no food,
right.
nothing.
Exactly. Right. How can I be tired? I should be ashamed of even thinking of that thought should even come to me because of what, where I stand. And so I think that we have to appreciate that. So much of that is forgotten. We got to appreciate that. Not to mention that there are certain people out there that want to erase history and act like it didn't happen, to satisfy their own
embarrassment for what it did,
whatever it is they want to hide, but they just want to wipe it out of the educational system so that people don't know about that. So fight against that. All right, fight against the suppression of information that these people want to do, because that's totally the wrong way to go. And so we have to protect ourselves, our people, our culture.
That's wealth. That's wealth.
That's
wealth. A lot
that's
of
wealth that they want to wipe out. And so everybody starts saying, so why do you want anything? What are reparations about? Everything is equal. So that's another part, to me, that's another part of what's called generational wealth.
Right. And when you think about that and you think about what we stand for, we think about on the backs of the people we stand for, and we think about all those things, we have to add those things and put the money on top of it. Because one of the things that we don't want to do is we don't want to lose the fact that passing on the cash, the money, and the wealth within our community, staying within our community as much as we possibly can, but generating that wealth, keeping that wealth, being smart about that wealth, investing that wealth. You're very, very smart in investing the wealth, and you sit on the boards of many places where they have choices in where they put the wealth. Have choices in where they put the community, where they help the community, have choices in what they do on a local level and on an international level. So you've seen generational wealth happen in different
and I can say also that it's all about cultures. Economics. It is all about economics. So we talk about generational wealth. It's all, and these people think it's all about the economics.
Yes.
They will try to take away everything, every little piece that you might have. They try to attack that. They try to take it away because they want it all. And if we don't protect it, if we don't stand up for our rights and stand up and fight for our rights, and now this whole thing about voter suppression. I spoke about this to a group of African American men and women, 10 years ago. They were like, "Oh, that's not going to happen. We're not. Oh, come on, Ken. You're talking crazy. We live in the U.S. of A.
Right.
We're not going to have voter suppression or the prejudice is about gone." Well, I haven't seen that same group of people in a while, but I'd like to hear what they say now. Do they still feel that way? I wouldn't think so. I think people have been sensitized to the undercurrent of, not the undercurrent, almost the overcurrent now of feeling that is out there. And, we see it in politics. We see it now. We see it in politics. We see it in all kinds of areas of life where one man, Donald Trump, has been able to energize and motivate a series of a group of people who have evil intent, I will say, who want to destroy democracy, who want to take away the right to vote, who want to minimize a whole group of people or peoples. We're talking about Hispanics, women, Jewish, African Americans. Eliminate those people or minimize those four groups and put them in a category and then so that they may be elevated. And so we gotta. This is a whole thing we have to really talk about.
Right.
We still talking about generational wealth, but I changed the subject.
You changed the subject.
I changed the subject 3 times, didn't I? Well, hang in there. It might go. I'm feeling a little feisty today. Shit, We're
going to bring it back to, I would like to bring this back just a little bit to where the generational wealth affects our children and what you expect with our children and what they can do, which are now, they're grown adults now. So it's not just our children, it's our grandchildren. What we've been able to show them, what we've been able to teach them, and where they can take it from there.
Well, we've been able to show them, certainly. I mean, you're saying we have different backgrounds, right?
Yeah.
You were born in middle class neighborhood.
Nice Detroit.
You know,
Beautiful.
Detroit, Palmer Woods, or not Palmer Woods, where was that?
Detroit.
Detroit.
It was fabulous.
Nice, you know, grass in the yard,
Yes.
beautiful.
Safe.
House, etc. You know, with a mama and dad,
Yes.
you know, and sisters.
Dog and a cat.
Dog and a cat, and they were running around their little thing, you know, and they run down
Bicycles
the
on
street.
Christmas.
Right, exactly. You had a Christmas tree, you know, all of that stuff, you know. And so you lived a different life. I was born in the projects, Yonkers, New York, right? And so I didn't have the kinds of things that you had. And my family life was dysfunctional. You know, my father was an alcoholic and all that. And so there was a whole different thing.
Right.
There was no thing about, so I literally never saw anything outside of those projects except for the few times when I would visit some relatives who lived in certain, you know, in houses. But generally that wasn't my experience.
Right.
And I didn't see that. And I didn't even strive for that. I didn't know what to strive for because, you know, it's all about exposure. So
Yes.
our kids have been exposed to a lot. They've been
Yeah.
to different countries. They've been, you know, they've seen,
traveled, yes.
they've seen a lot. And so, and I think we could have done a better job actually in teaching them about finances. I think we did a relatively okay job, but I think we could have done a better job in teaching about finances and you know, what to do with money, how to protect money, you know, and all of that. Because I think there's a miscommunication about money in society, but certainly, you know, when you think about people in the family, there's you know, there's struggles. There's a lot of
you know
struggles.
what? When you don't have any money, you don't understand about money.
Right.
And when you have some money, then you have to consciously take advantage of what you can learn about money. And I think that right now there's a lot of conversation about it. But when we were coming up to, there was the hustle of making the money.
Right.
When then it's another conversation that you have with yourself. Once you have the money, it's how you manage the money. And so our kids were more grown than when they were teeny, when we have the money that we have now, to show them how we go into navigating, keeping it, and growing the money.
But I think what they learn from us also is being aware, being entrepreneurs. A couple of
Entrepreneurship.
entrepreneurship, you
Big
know,
deal.
and working hard. Working hard. They see us working very, very hard over the course of years. I mean, we've seen you put in those 16-hour days. I've done the same thing for years and years and years.
With joy, with a lot of joy.
Because it's what I love doing.
Yeah.
And so I didn't mind being at the office at 6 o'clock and leaving at 10 o'clock at night. If those were I mean, not every day, but many days for sure, because that's what needed to be done
Right.
to become successful in my world.
Right.
Of construction. And so, and in your world, you know, you had 1,000 people that you had to contact on a daily basis almost. And so, and to motivate. I could not do, we always say, I could not do what she
And I
did.
could not do
Certainly,
what he did.
Right, exactly. But, you know,
But we did
together,
what we loved. The point is,
Right.
we did what we loved. We did it in entrepreneurship, and our kids saw us hustle. They saw us work hard.
And they saw that.
And they gained that.
Right.
They definitely gained
They gain that. They gain that. Listen, I got to get this done. You know, I'm independent. I want to be independent. I want, you know, and they're not fooled very much. They're pretty adept at finding the best situation for themselves.
Right. You know, when we talk to other people, because it's our kids, it's our relatives, it's the people that know us and follow us and,
Right.
and tune into us, they do ask us a lot about what it is like
They
to
do.
have that wealth and what is
Right.
it like to manage that wealth and what is it like to enjoy it, and can you enjoy it and put some away? Because if you, like you just said, if you spend it all, you won't have anything to pass on.
Well, so let me ask you this question then. So there's a difference between people who say, look, I want to save money in order to accumulate money, like the book The Millionaire Next Door.
Yeah.
Don't remember who wrote it, but it was a very good book.
Yeah.
And it talked about, you know, incremental increase, putting aside money, et cetera, so you build wealth. And there's other people who will say, hey, you know, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to create a budget, for instance, because that limits me. I want to be unlimited. I want to allow maybe God to, you know, I'm just going to allow this to happen. I know it's going to happen. So my thoughts are abundant. I have an abundant thought, abundance about wealth. And so I'm not going to worry about putting money aside. I'm not going to worry about a budget. I'm just going to spend because I know that it's going to be replenished because I am an unlimited being. So what do you think about that? What? Give me the.
Well, I really think that is a conversation that people are having, but I really think that everybody keeps talking about this or that, this or that, this or that. And I think it's a this and that.
Okay.
I don't understand why you can't create a budget for what fits your life right now as you manifest a bigger, more abundant world that you have. I don't understand why you can't understand what it looks like. And it's not that it's easy. For me, budgeting is not easy. It's not easy. It's a concept I had to understand. And for some other people, it's super easy. So everybody has to decide what they're going to push through. But easy or not easy, it's necessary. To me, it's necessary. But it has never stopped me from having an abundant thought. It was just an understanding of where I am today. And to me, it was motivating for where I was going to go tomorrow. Because if I have to budget at that number, I want to be able to budget at this number. I want to be able to budget at this number. I want to be able to budget at a bigger number. And that never stopped my big thinking.
All right.
What do you think?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question. I guess I got it. But you know, what is not usual is that I agree with you. In a certain extent, I agree in that I think that having an abundant mentality is critical for, to allow wealth, to accept wealth within your spirit, within the spirit of your being, within the spirit of your thoughts. If you're always thinking lack, I don't have this and I don't have that, and oh God, that's too expensive, and oh God, that's too expensive. I think we have to eliminate those thoughts from our minds and not think about that. Just think about, how you look at. I mean, and this, $10 million condo on top of this building, and I said, at first I looked at it, I said, no, but then I said, you know what? Why not? Why not? You can have anything you want if we allow for the abundance to come to us. Because money is unlimited, abundance is unlimited. Unlimited thought, consciousness is who we are.
Right.
We are the image and likeness of our consciousness.
Right.
And so, if we are the image and likeness of our consciousness, what is our consciousness saying? And if our consciousness is saying lack, then we will receive lack. If our consciousness is saying absolute abundance, then we receive absolute abundance.
Right.
So when I say what I do agree though is that we should still be good shepherds of our money. What I mean by good shepherds, I mean I wouldn't take a barrel full of money and throw it over the side of a ship at sea. I wouldn't just throw it away. I wouldn't burn it. And certain things you spend money on, you just throw it away, just kind of burn it because you don't care about it. I do care about it. I want to have enough. I want to have everything, but I want to be able to, give it away. I want to be able to change lives. I want to be able to change circumstances, and I just don't want to. But so I want to have an understanding of money, and I want to be a good steward of it, as opposed to just saying, it doesn't matter.
What about when you're being a good steward of money? When you're budgeting, you could still budget with gratefulness. If you budget and you're grateful for what you have, it doesn't have to feel limiting. It doesn't have to feel lack. It can feel tremendously abundant, even if it's less than what you want to have at that moment. But I'm super excited. I have this, what I have, to budget to do this. And then that gratefulness matched with a abundant mind and a attention on your consciousness will cause things to change for you.
All right. God.
Woo! You know what? I think being their favorite couple, we ought to talk about good money habits. Let's talk about people who have good money habits and people who have mediocre money habits, or people who have mediocre habits and they've gained way better money habits because they were something like yours. I remember the story that your mother told about how you had a quarter in your pocket and the ice cream truck came and all the kids from your neighborhood ran over to the ice cream truck. I mean, they were going to the ice cream truck. And of course, you're one of the fastest runners. So, of course, you got over to that truck. And then all of a sudden, she said your body went, You looked at that quarter like, this is not going in that truck right there. So, I have a question for you because it's almost like you have great habits, but were you born with that? Or did you create them? Or what do you think?
Well, that's a good question. I think because I don't know. To be honest with you, I don't know. I mean, it was lack. I mean, there was enough to eat, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But there was still lack, and I knew that there was not. I was told there's not enough money. A nickel. You want a nickel? You think money grows on trees, or like that kind of stuff. So I learned to value money some kind of way. I learned to value money.
That's a really important question.
And
Some kind of way.
Some kind of way. And so when I was a kid, I would play with money. I would, count my money, nickels and dimes and quarters. If I get $1, I'd be like, dollar, and save it. I'd be counting it, counting it. And I said to, and my aunt, that, and I was maybe, how old was I? 5 or 6, something like that, years old. And I told my aunt that I was going to be a millionaire. And they all said, okay, honey, okay. I mean, but and $1 million back then meant like
a zillion
now, right? But I said, I'm going to be a millionaire. And they were like, poor Kenny's thinking he's going to be a millionaire. But I knew it. I knew it back then. I said, because this is kind of funny. I just knew that I wasn't in the best situation in my life. Something in my mind told me, this is not the best situation. You got to take care of yourself. So somehow I knew, I was like counting the years before I was 18, I can get out the house. I was 5 years old counting. I said, how many? 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and
he was. I mean, he's serious about that.
No, I'm very serious.
Yeah.
And so I had to save my money. I had to save my money because what I was experiencing was crazy. And I had to figure out.
And you knew that though. You knew that as a child.
I knew it, and I don't know how. I just don't know how that I knew. But the screaming and yelling and arguing was just too much, and I just knew it wasn't right. And so other things that I won't it was too much.
Right.
And so you learn that in order for me to do something about that, in order for me to get out of here, I have to take care of myself. And that's what I did from the time I was, very young. I had to take care of myself because my father was non-functioning. My mother was so invested in having to deal with that. It was a full-time occupation. And so, I was fed, I ate, and the clothes were clean, but there was not a lot of education going on. So I knew that, look, I gotta take care of this myself. And so I
what do you mean education? Because you got a great education.
Education, I mean home, like, education. That kind of education that son, sit down, let me talk to you. About this and that and the other thing.
That's important when you talk about generational wealth.
Yeah, it is.
It was not passed from your parents.
Right. It was not. And so, but what was passed on, and this is another thing, is that you're going to go to college, because nobody in that. Well, no, I shouldn't say that. My aunt became a PhD. Right. But
the
majority of my family did not go to college.
It wasn't even on their radar.
It wasn't on their radar. My mother and father did not go to college. They both graduated high school. I said, but they wanted me to go. Well, my mother wanted me to go. My father died when I was 14. So she was very serious about that. She, in her mind, that was the way that I would become a better person. And so, but when I asked about money, it's like, well, I don't have any money, so you're gonna have to figure that out.
You're gonna have to figure it out.
You're gonna have to figure. You can, at 12, I'm gonna figure out how you're gonna go to college, right?
It's not funny, but the way you tell stories is so funny. It's not funny, but the way you tell the story is so funny. Because my parents were the opposite.
It is funny.
Are going to college,
right?
And we're going to make sure that you go to college. And you're going to worry about it because we're going to take care of that because we've already planned for it. So I saw generational wealth in terms of not that they were wealthy, but they had planned for that,
right? And
we knew that.
And I think the generational wealth that I had was that the wealth of you're going to go to college, right? It should have been you're going to go to college, you're going to go to grad school, you're going to go to but it was good enough. You're going to go to college, but I had to figure out how to do it,
right?
And so, I didn't have enough money in my piggy bank to go to college, but somebody told me somewhere along the line about scholarships and everything. So I studied hard. I went to a Catholic high school, studied hard, and
you were a leader. I think it's important. You were a leader from the beginning. You went to a Catholic high school. You became class president at that high school, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it was, and you were athletic.
I was on a track team, and so I had good grades, good enough to get some academic scholarship offers, and I was a good athlete. I think I was number 2 in the state in high hurdles, striving to be number 1. I couldn't beat this one guy out of Mount Vernon. I beat him in college though, so I couldn't beat him in high school. But it was good enough to get a track scholarship to offer track scholarship offers.
When you got to college, you had enough for the tuition, but you had to raise more money.
No, tuition was paid for. So when I got to
I
college,
said you got enough in the scholarship for the tuition.
oh yes,
But you had to raise money for the money for you to live off of, and that's when you
right.
started
I got
making more money.
tuition, room and board,
Right.
and but you still need money to,
That's what I'm
if you
saying.
want to go to, if it's not the meal at the cafeteria and you want to go to McDonald's or whatever it was that you go to, you had to have money, And so if you want to buy a car, you had to have money. If you want to do this,
So
I worked during the summers in the post office and in other places, but the post office was great, and delivering mail and things of that nature during the summers. And I also became an entrepreneur. My first entrepreneurial venture was in college. That's what and did very well. There was a group of us who did over the 4 years, we did about 40 parties, dances, fashion shows, all kinds of things, and money making events.
You were a producer.
Producer. We take flyers and we go to CW Post and Hofstra and St. John's College and other, just not within easy driving distance to Adelphi University, and we have these students come in and
but again,
they
generational wealth. You were creating wealth back then.
Right.
You saw what you needed to do.
Saw what I
you
needed to
hustled
do.
to do it, and
so
it was
there was
another platform.
because I didn't have any choices, so there was nothing to lean back on. You can't lean back. You got to move forward. And so, which reminds me of a story about I think it was a Japanese general who was going to war, and he had on his ships, and he took his army on these ships and landed on the shore. And when everything got off and all the equipment got off and all the people got off, he turned around and demanded that the ships be burned to the spine. And they burned those ships, and he said, "We will win or we will die." And so you create that motivation. You create that motivation, right? So when you in that situation I was, you had motivation to keep on moving.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't sit back and I see some of the kids, they're just like, hey man, I don't care. I'll just go back home. I'll do this and that. I didn't have that option, and I wasn't moving back home.
Right.
So,
right. And let me just say this: the fact that you said I wasn't moving back home was a very self-motivated decision that you had made. Not that there was a home to go back to, but you did make that decision. And different things happen in people's lives. When I think about the time when I when my ship was burned, when I was coming out of domestic violence, 10 years domestic violence, and I ended up in a divorce, and the kids were 1 and 2 years old, and I did not want my life to go backwards. And everybody was telling me that it was going to go backwards. When you go through this divorce, you're going to be this, that, and the other, and it's so many conversations that people were having to me. And in fact, those were motivating to me, because it was like, no. So that's when I decided to take on the side hustle, which ended up being my career choice. But it was because I wanted to create a wealthy situation for my kids when people thought that it was going to be lost. And so I just want to bring up that a lot of different reasons why people get motivated to create wealth. Because you said something. You said, I can't lean back. Well, there are people who lean back. They do make the choice to lean back. You said, I can't lean back. I've got to go forward. And so we want to make sure that people understand that it is a choice, but you have to make the choice, and they have to do something about the choice.
There's something to be said about it. I cannot fail.
Yeah.
And when you can't fail, you can't fail. You can't fail. I'm proud of you. I'm so proud of you because, I see so much what you've done. I see that you are one of the most determined people that I've ever met. And you talk about, to become wealthy or to have money coming in, and you just took the bull by the horns. And I've never seen anybody as dedicated as you were. Being in Mary Kay, being number one in the company, being number one out of 3.5 million women. I mean, that's a whole lot of women being number one out of 3.5 million, and being number one for 6 years running until that's unbelievable. That's unbelievable. And it speaks to your determination. You are, just motivated because you are determined. And because I'm talking about money, you are determined not to lose. You are determined to win. I shouldn't even say not to lose. Right. You are determined to win. You have this tenacity that I don't care who you are. If you coming after my position, you are going to fail. And I appreciate that. And sometimes I want to mention that because that's what it takes sometimes. That's what it takes. It takes a decision to go forward, and without anything can get in your way. And I'll tell another story. I mean, you had an operation back, I don't know what year, maybe you remember, but you had a serious operation. You were in the hospital for at least a couple of weeks in the hospital, and you were going for this big goal. And so literally like hours after the operation, you're on a phone in the hospital. This is before cell phone, so you had to hold the phone. You're on the phone like, hey, you got to come in there, and the drugs
Don't imitate me. Don't imitate me.
the drugs are wearing off in a minute, but you need to do an order.
No, stop. Don't say that. Cut that part out. Cut out the part you need to do an order.
You need to buy some. I mean, you were literally, okay, so literally you were in the hospital, you were making calls, you were doing business, you were making sure that you were number one that year. And that, so there's just so many things that you did.
But you brought up something I want to highlight here.
Yeah.
I want to highlight
yes.
that the people you hang around make a difference.
Right.
So you said when you were describing yourself, I could not fail. Then when you described it about me, I could not fail. But honestly, that is such a good piece of energy that we used to give each other all the time.
Right.
It gave us the space to let the other person do their best. But it was because we also fueled each other. So we have to tell people that you have to be careful who you hang around.
Right.
And to acknowledge what they bring to the table.
Right.
You reminded me I was enough. I want to remind you that you are enough and you had everything you needed to do more than what you thought you could do.
That's right. We would do these major construction projects.
Yes,
big.
big.
And they had to be done a certain way and in a certain amount of time.
Right.
And I knew that I could not fail. As an African-American contractor, there are things that you can't fail. Right. Because that word would go, I see other contractors fail all the time.
Right.
It's okay. Charlie, man, don't worry about it. You have enough money in the contract. You need a little bit more. I mean, I never got that kind of stuff, right? And I knew that if I ever failed, that my business would be done. So we not just myself, but the team that I have built around me, the team, the company, the determination, the dogged determination, the vision that they had to be number one, to be the best, to put out the best product. I couldn't even write a letter that would go out. Everybody reviewed it. It's like, no, I think that shouldn't be a semicolon. That should be a colon. And then that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It was like
that attention to
really
detail.
attention to detail. Everything that went out, every brochure or marketing, everything that had to be done perfectly. But we knew that we had to be the best in everything, every aspect of the business. The way you answer the phone, every aspect of the business had to be top notch.
But that created the generational wealth. That created the wealth. That inspired so many people in the company. For me, what is so exciting about that is that when you build it, that everyone in the company will also thrive. You weren't the only thriver. You were the owner of the company, but everybody that was a part of that would thrive at the same thing. So you're not losing. Not only affected the business world, not only affected your reputation, but affected the people that chose to work with you.
Absolutely.
And their generational wealth.
And I was saying that we just could not fail. And you were saying you could not fail. And there are certain things, if you have that mindset, you have that determination, there are no excuses. There is only resolve to be successful, to complete the task, the mission at hand. And so we fed off of each other. That's what we did.
Right.
And if you don't have that determination, if you don't have that doggedness, that resolve to complete a task, to do something, not to give up, to go through, no matter what happens, no matter what the obstacles, no matter where you are, no matter who you are, you have to have that complete, what is it?
Resolve. That word is
resolve,
good.
that doggedness, that I don't care what happens. I'm going to make this, I'm going to complete my mission, I'm going to complete my vision, I'm going to complete my goal. If you can get that done, bam!
Everything's good.
What? How does Chris Berman say it? I can't say it like Chris Berman. The fastest 3 minutes, Yes, my dear.
Let's talk about a healthy relationship with
Between
money.
us, we have a healthy relationship.
Healthy relationship with money.
Oh, that's
Your
a whole
money,
different thing.
My money, your money is our money. That kind of
Yeah, right. My money is your money.
Yeah.
And your
my
money is your money.
Right.
That's how it works out, right?
Yeah, that's a healthy relationship
with money. That's how we talk about. But what about a healthy relationship with money? A healthy relationship with money is a relationship where you're not afraid, you're not in lack of money. You have, but what is the mentality? When you say relationship, what is the mentality of money? So some people have a mentality where they're afraid of money. They can't seem to
They don't even trust themselves.
They don't
money.
trust themselves with money, right? They don't. It's almost like I don't want it. Almost like if I get money,
I've seen that.
I'm just gonna waste it. I'm just gonna throw it away, right?
Just give me just this much.
I've seen, and I know you've seen in your business where people will have a successful, let's say they have a successful week, and they're doing, they're on top of the charts, and then like seeing for 8 weeks.
Right.
I saw that in the insurance business when people would have a good week, and then they say, oh man, I'm good. I never stopped. I always kept going. I said, well, if I got a good week, I'm going to have a better week next week.
Because the relationship was to make more of it?
The relationship was to make more and do better. And so that was I think relationship with money is all about your thoughts about the matter. And I think we talked about it a little bit before. It's the thought process behind your relationship. Is your relationship a good relationship or is it bad? But I remember years ago, I heard about people that would just like money. Case in point, money's dirty. Some people think that money is dirty. I mean, literally dirty. So you don't want to touch it. You want to keep it away. So that's not a healthy relationship with money. Or
definitely not going to bring any to you.
It's not. You're not attracting it.
Right.
You're not attracting it if you think it's dirty and something you shouldn't touch. Or some people say like the love of money is the root of all evil. So that's not a healthy relationship.
No.
If you think that the love of money or liking money or wanting money is the root of all evil, then if I want money, then I'm an evil person. That doesn't work. It's you
want choices. You want a lot of things you want to do with it.
Exactly. So there's no shame in wanting to have money.
Right.
There's no shame in going out and getting it.
Right.
There's no shame in in having an unlimited sort of mentality about it. And what can you do if you don't have money? What can you do? How can you help others if you don't have money yourself?
Right.
Exactly. I've heard that conversation a lot.
Right.
So the relationship with money is very important, but there's a lot of people out there who don't believe it, and they just think like, oh no, it's something bad.
Because I have seen you spend time becoming educated about money. Trust and investments and things that you've taken the time. We've taken time in different ways about money, but I think one of the ways to have a healthy relationship with money is to understand what to do with money once you get some money. So can you talk about that, how you became educated about what to do with money?
Well, I'm not saying I'm not an investment counselor, so do not take my advice. So this is not something you should do.
Yeah.
But there's.
But you got smart. How did you get smart about money?
Well, you just read about it and you want to invest.
Listen to people,
and so you don't want your money to sit around at no interest. You want your money to work, as they say. You want it to work for you. And so whether you put it into an investment account where you get 3 or 5 or 10% return on your dollar, that's what you want to do, and or that's something that's a way.
But your process, what was your process before you get to the point with what you did with money?
Right.
How did you get smart about money?
I mean, you got to read about it. You got to know the number of ways to invest money. And so, how do you do that? You go to seminars, you read books.
Right.
I'm just like everybody else. You read, and I can probably rattle off a dozen books that I read that made a difference for me. And I would not. So, if I got a book, and sometimes you read a book, if you just get one idea out of it, just one idea that you can utilize, and you take that idea, you can go from 0 to 100 with just one idea. So you read a whole book, but you got one idea.
Right.
But that idea might be very important. So I used to read in order to try to understand as much as I could about that process. And then you pick up a clue here, you pick up the clue there. You buy properties, and how do you buy properties, and how do you find the low value in property, and et cetera, et cetera. What are the different terms and the uses of, so there's so many things that you can learn. So,
let me
that's
tell
what
you,
we did.
When you say the process, I saw you read. I've read. I see you in conversations with people. I see you not running from conversations. I see you getting deeper into conversations, asking questions of people who might know more about money than you do at this time. I see you going to seminars about money, going to places, watching things to learn about money. I mean, there's a process that people can do to get educated, because you can also choose not to be educated.
Right.
And so if you're going to have a positive relationship with money, the more you understand what people do with money and how much you know and how much you don't know or how much you want to gain, that's the part that I was trying to get to, because I've seen you invest time and energy to be smart with your money.
Right.
Yeah.
What are some of the money values that you have instilled in the children?
Money values. I think that one of the things they learned really well was to be a level of independence on their own. I'm very grateful that they're independent and they didn't lean on other people to take care of them. That they knew how to hustle. They knew how to, they used to take jobs early. They wanted to work. And it was instilled in them to do that, to take care of themselves. And I think that's the beginning part of it. I think the other part of it is to get the kind of education that they needed, not the kind of education that we wanted them to get, but the kind of education that they wanted to set themselves up for what they needed to do. So I think that was a big part of it, and then what they did to how they used their money, how they used it, when they used to spend it, when they used to save it, when they used to travel with it, what they did to enjoy, how they used their money to enjoy the things that they wanted to do. I think those are all things that were instilled in them. What do you think?
Well, I think so, and also the value of hard work, and you got to work hard for the consistency over time yields results, and I think all of them have done that, and they work hard in their chosen fields of endeavor.
Yeah, and entrepreneurship, some of them, and some of them not.
Right, a couple of them are entrepreneurs, and but they're doing very, very they're doing very well, right? And so we are very proud of all of them for their determination and
their individual success,
and their individual success and their independence.
Yeah.
And I say, people say, look, I got my children living with me. They don't, we haven't seen them since they were 18, right? They're like gone. They're like, hey, bye, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
We must have been horrible parents. Right? No, you don't think so?
No, we're the favorite couple here.
Well, I mean, but I'm talking.
No,
I did win the Father of the Year award.
You did
from the American Diabetes Association Baltimore years ago, right?
Father of the Year award.
And I told the kids,
they were all there.
Remember, I told the kids,
what?
Hey, guess what? Dad won the Father of the Year award. You did? How's that possible?
But they learned to get their own jobs. They learned to get part-time jobs. They learned to save money. They learned to do whatever it had to take. But there was a level of independence, I think, that they lost. And even though we had it, they went to go get their own.
They went to get their own, right? They didn't want to, come ask and, so they.
I remember that time that we took Rakenya out shopping for, she was in school.
Right.
We brought her home to get some clothes and I said, okay, so we're going to go shopping for you and get some things. She said, I just want one pair of pants. What do you say? I just need one pair of pants. I was like, your father is getting ready to buy you some clothes. Some is the key word. She was like, I just need one pair of pants.
The checkbook is open. Right. Come on, baby. Come on.
But she wasn't, that was her taught by us. She wasn't an overspender. She doesn't need extra. She didn't need that. That's not all the kids. Each one of them has their own personality.
Right.
We love each one of their personalities.
Right.
But I thought that was a really funny story.
It is.
A lot of people say that a culture will do certain things with their kids, and Black kids leave, the home after high school, and maybe some other cultures don't. And I don't know if it's just the culture, because I think really times have made a difference. I think what kids used to do 20, 30 years ago, when they could really make it on their own, where they could really afford to have an apartment, where they really could afford to start their life. Now they need more support for different reasons. Education costs more. The loans are more. The housing is more. Inflation is higher. Expenses are different. Travel is different. So I think that it's not so much for me, the culture, it's the situation that they're living in right now. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's
both.
I think it's the culture also, because in terms of Jewish families, for instance, I don't think that the kids move away as quickly, but sometimes it's a whole different thing, because they learn money, how to run businesses, and at a very early age, and I certainly didn't teach our kids how to run business. Now now that some of them are in business, they will ask questions about what to do, et cetera. And we
didn't have this kind of business where they could do the business with us.
Right, we did not. Well,
they could watch us,
but they didn't want to work 18 hours a day in construction, right?
But they did. They worked for you. I remember when Clutch worked for you for a while.
Oh yeah. Oh man. Yeah, he hated it, right? he learned what he didn't want to do. He was like, man, I'm going to college and I'm going to be successful in some other damn field other than construction. My dad is crazy. Got me over here working on these dusty people, these old these old guys over here. Hey, what you do? What you doing? Get over here, boy! Oh, it traumatized him. He went directly to college, got himself together, and said, "Man, I'm gonna
That
become
I'm not gonna
successful."
do.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it is funny. I think that we, in terms of kids living away from home or home, I think there is a push in African American families to kind of look, when you get to be 18, that's about it. You're going. We didn't tell our kids that.
No.
They weren't told that when you get to be 18 that they got to go, but they just went.
Yeah.
All four of them, they're like 18 years old. It's like click, boom, click, boom.
Yeah.
They just rolled on
Right.
out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they just wanted to be independent.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what I got out of that. They wanted to be independent. They were confident. All of them are super confident.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, I can make it on my own.
Mm-hmm.
And they basically have.
Mm-hmm.
Even in these times when certainly it's challenging. It's
Yeah.
more challenging because it's the finances are so different.
Yeah.
But there might be some cultural differences also, where families would stay together. The
Right.
grandparents would stay, and the
Right.
parents,
Yeah.
the kids, everybody
Yeah.
would
Yeah.
kind of stay
Yeah.
in that.
There's some of that for sure.
Right, in that circle,
sure. Yeah.
in that family circle, and we don't necessarily have that. We've kind of dispersed.
Yeah.
Now we did have it in the African culture, but when we came here, I think because of the hundreds of years of slavery, when families were torn apart, that we have some of that legacy within us now.
Right.
That we're okay with families going hither and yon, as they say, hither and yon. And so when I was growing up, when I grew up, most of the family was in the same area, within a couple of miles of each other.
Right.
But now it's different. Everybody's
different.
all over the place.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there is a difference. In
Yeah.
that.
Spreads them out. Education starts that sometimes.
Education
They
starts
start-
that, right?
Or
Exposure.
a trade will start that. And exposure is huge. Exposure is very, very
You see
huge.
some different, kids now, they want to go to Europe. They want to
Right.
They want to learn a different language.
Right,
They want
right,
to do something different.
Right. Makes
So
a difference.
it makes a
big
difference. So how would you rate us? How would you rate us as parents when it came to raising the kids? Do you think we were stern?
In terms of money or just
Well, I mean,
period?
just talk. Just talk.
Just talk.
Yeah. What do you think?
I wouldn't think we were stern. I
No?
don't think we were stern. No, I think we were clear. I think we were very clear. I think there were some expectations that were important, and there was behavior that we wouldn't lower our standards about, especially the way that you treated us or the way that you treated other adults. That was a very big deal for us, I think. The respect that they had was big. But I would say that they had a lot of choices, and they saw a lot, and that it was a great childhood for them. That's how I would describe it. I don't think we were stern. Do you?
No, I don't think we were. First of all, I'm sterner than you are.
Okay.
You don't think so?
Mm,
You say I was too stern.
I don't think the word was stern. I think the word was overprotective when they were younger.
Overprotective. Overprotective. Okay.
When they were younger,
Uh-huh.
you were more protective than I was, which feeds into you trust less, I trust more. But stern, I think you were clear. I think you were clear. It was like I'll never forget that thing. Like, okay, y'all are fighting. Do you want me to settle it? Yes, Daddy. Would you settle it? Okay, everybody go to bed. I was like, you sit on the bed. It's 4:00. Yep, everybody goes to bed. If I have to settle it, you go to bed. And you couldn't settle it, so I'm settling it, so you go to bed. That was clear.
But that was the last time we had that problem,
That
right?
was clear. I don't think it was stern. It was just
Parents
clear.
don't do that kind of stuff anymore. Parents are just like, oh, well,
Always talking to him,
I don't
talking
know
to him,
what to
talking
do.
to
I don't know what to do. I mean, you gotta take control of the situation. I remember the time when because I was separated from my first wife, and the kids were at my house, and I was cooking something, and they say like, Daddy, I like Mom's cooking better. First of all, that kind of pissed me off, right? How could you like anything, right? But I like Mom's cooking better. I thought, okay, all right. So, what do you want to do? He said, well, I don't know. We can do. I said, I'll tell you what. Why don't we go to the store, and you go and you get anything you want, and then you guys put it together. I'm fine. I'm fine with that, right? So he went to the store, but all they got was cereal and milk.
Right.
Right? That's all they got was cereal and milk.
Right.
Right?
That's all they know how to do.
That's right. So we come back to the house on a Friday, and they,
For the whole
they come
weekend.
back for the so they eat on Saturday morning. They got cereal and milk, and then when lunchtime comes, they get cereal and milk, and then dinner time comes. They really don't want cereal and milk
Right.
at dinner time, right?
Right.
So they say, they look at me, what was the dinner? I said, well, you got it, right? Didn't you get the food that you wanted?
Maybe you were stern.
Cereal and milk. Cereal and milk. And I mean, so they were like, you know what, Dad, you actually are a pretty good cook. It only lasted one time. I mean, you got to know what to do. Parents now, they just give in, right? You just say, okay, no problem. You want to do that? That's fine. You want to argue? Just go to bed. That was the last time they had an argument. After that, it'd be 2:00 in the morning. Like, where the kids at? They huddled up, quiet as mice, right? Quiet as mice. Well, tell them about the time Chauncey was over the house and I was had him doing leaves.
Oh my goodness. He tells a story every Thanksgiving about how you had him over there. Okay, come on. I forget what he did that was wrong, but it upset you. Yeah, come over to my house and we're going to rake leaves. And it got dark and he's, Mom, it's dark. It's dark. He went to Ken and said, it's dark. He's like, okay, there's a flashlight. Flashlight. Keep on going.
Keep on going. Don't stop.
It doesn't stop. There's nothing that stops until the job is done. Period. With a capital T.
Exactly.
That was hilarious.
Then go outside. All the leaves are up.
Oh man.
The rakes are. You didn't finish. Well, I did finish. The rakes is laying out on the yard. You didn't finish. You got to pick up those rakes and put them in the garage. What are you talking about? You're not finished. So it's a matter of how you got to instill certain things in them, right? And so I think even in money, you got to instill certain things.
Yeah.
And so when a child wants something, I want so and so, and I see some parents really having a hard time dealing with that because the kid cries and screams and yells.
I'm sorry, Roman.
First of all, I would not care if a child is screaming and yelling. I might care when they're doing that if I'm outside in the store because it's sort of like you don't want to deal with that. But the one time you gotta deal with that situation, and with all this stuff about, do not touch your children, do not do that. You don't, man. I don't ever remember spanking my daughter and my son. I think I spanked one time. But they gotta know that there's a line that they can't cross. Mm-hmm. And I tell that because we know.
A no means a no.
A no means a no. A no's got to mean a no. You cannot let your child dictate what they want to do without your permission. So sometimes there's a toddler 2, 3, 4 years old and they want to do what they want to do. Okay, that's good. They got this energy. They're feeling themselves. They want to do that. But when you tell them no, they got to know it's no. They can't be going up and kicking you and doing what they want to do because if there's a dangerous situation, you tell them stop. They got to stop. If they're running out in the street and there's a truck coming, you got to tell them to stop and they got to stop.
Right.
They got to know that. So if you're letting your child run around doing what they want to do and you can't control them, that's a dangerous. That's not only bad for them because they don't know their parameters, but it's dangerous for them. And by the way, that the kids will always try to find they'll try to find what their parameters are. If you can't establish parameters for them, then that's not good for them. They don't want that. So you got to establish these parameters. And I'm not saying, but on the other hand, you can't be beating your kids and all that kind of stuff. What I mean?
Setting parameters does not mean mean.
It does mean mean, right?
Actually, setting parameters is a kind thing that you give to kids to thrive. They can thrive in a situation where they're safe, and where there's no parameters, there's no safety.
They don't have to throw paint on the wall. They don't have to do that. That's pretty much a no, right? No matter where you are, but you got to establish that. Right. And so I learned that just recently. I heard a story about a lady that. Got an opportunity to have a really nice apartment with her 2 kids. But she said, no, that's too nice. My kids would tear this up.
Whoa.
Like what? Your kids are going to tear it up? And so you have no control over that? You're going to let your kids tear up your home? Mm-hmm.
So that meant that her children were dictating the lifestyle that she was going to be able to enjoy,
right?
Because they were going to run the show.
They were running the show. No matter where they were running the show,
right?
And that's a travesty. Those kids are not going to be able to develop the way they need to develop because they will not have the discipline in their lives to understand where the boundaries are. They won't have any boundaries. When you don't have any boundaries, you don't have any discipline.
We're so glad that you're with us today. I love that conversation.
It was
I
great.
really love the conversation. Well, we're so glad that you follow along with us right here. You can see us where we are. And if you're on Instagram, you can follow me at Gloria Banks.
And me at official Ken Banks. And you can see the podcast on Spotify or YouTube or Apple or any place that you watch your podcast. You will be able to see us because we are banking on the banks.